I would define sexism as discriminating against someone based on their gender.
Sexism is any form of a certain gender telling the opposite that they aren't equal, they are opposing each other, whether it be in a nice way or in a harsh way.
Sexism to me would be any case where one sex is stereotyped or thought to be superior or inferior.
Sexism is when one sex sort of, I guess, has dominance on the other, whether it's political, social, different implications of it. It's when one gender kind of has dominance on the other, in my opinion.
That's whenever men think that they're the best and women are like, no.
So I would say that sexism is I wanted to say it's a system, but it's not really a system. It's oppression against someone based on sex or gender. Yeah.
Sexism is where you're treated differently, usually in a negative manner or a condescending manner, based on like traditional gender roles that would be associated with what you are.
Sexism is a biased treatment of any one person for their sexual or gender identities.
I haven't technically experienced sexism, like I kind of have, but I've definitely been around where sexism has been experienced. For example, in my work study, we've been like told to go get mail or whatever, and they've sent one of the people back from the mail, like central receiving, saying no, go send a boy because you can't do it because it's too heavy. And sometimes it'll be like, we need a boy to go get the mail. So I've definitely seen it happen on college.
I haven't experienced anything personally, but I have seen it around. I mean, you can't avoid things like that. Men will always think that they should be allowed to do one thing, and women will always think that they should be allowed to do something else. And they will give each other hell for it.
I guess a good example I can think of is maybe a guy or even a girl in the gym. If like I just pass by and I see them, I don't know, maybe if it's a guy and a girl walks by them, like I notice they kind of like put on like kind of an attitude or a demeanor of like trying to look tough, I guess.
I think when people think of sexism, they see a man being misogynistic or being sexist towards a woman. I think it's deeper than that. And so even for men are, I guess, get trapped in this sexism, I guess, block themselves with their own masculinity, as men have to check themselves constantly to make sure they're not seen as being gay, so they have to always make sure they're being masculine and stuff like that. So within gender roles, sexism comes into play. And so yeah, I mean, definitely I see it all the time where guys try to be overly masculine just to make sure that no one perceives them differently. And I think that as a male, I've done that myself, because I think for men, I think we do not want to be contrasted. We don't want to be compared or looked at as feminine at all. You know, that's something we want to repress. We want to hold that back from us, and we want to be masculine, strong, powerful, and anything other than that, we kind of demonize. You know, and so I think sexism, in terms of like femininity and masculinity, I think when it's being restrictive towards a certain person, when a man cannot be feminine or a woman cannot be masculine without someone having something to say about that, I think that's what sexism comes to play.
Kind of partaken in it a little bit. Like whenever I see girls out on the lawn, like flaunting everything, like sunbathing, it runs through my mind, oh, that's not a good look right there. But I haven't seen it very blatant as like a guy to a girl or a girl.
I can honestly say that I think Loyola is really like great about being a little bit more like open with stuff like that. Not to say that it doesn't happen, because like I said, it's very institutional, it's very ingrained in us. Even to the point that I feel like a lot of times I have to like sit back and think about it before I can even think like that was sexism, because it is so ingrained in us. But there was this one time. Do you want me to give a specific example? Yeah, there was this one time that I was actually working, and I had to go pick up something, and I remember when I went there, they were like, they were like, you can't do this. Is there a boy that can pick this up for you? It's like too heavy or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm the only person in the office. Like, can I get it or whatever? And the woman like pointed to me and was like, this is who they sent to like get this. Which I'm also very small, so that's probably a factor. But there's another girl in the office who's a lot bigger, like taller and like probably stronger than I am, and they wouldn't let her get the stuff either. And I was like, no, I think I can get it or whatever. And they even called my office and was like, hey, is there someone else who can get this for you? And they were like, no. And I just remember like when I actually went to, the woman was like, I can't do this and neither can you. And I was like, okay, so that's an example of it being very much ingrained, like even so even to the point that women like believe that
your own gender, believe that they're
so when I went to go do it, I remember how, I mean, it was heavy, but like it was something that like I easily like did just you know, I slid the box onto the cart, like I didn't even have to like really lift. And so I just think like it was just very offensive that it wasn't even thought that there was like another way I could do it. It was like, no, you're like, they straight up told me, you're a girl, you need a boy to come do this. And I just thought that was like extremely offensive, and I came back to work and my boss was kind of like, that's really sexist, and I was like, that's, yeah, I agree.
When it comes to like the Lena Confessions page and stuff, people are really homophobic, and I feel like that's almost a form of sexism.
By sexism, because each race, I believe, like this sexism is done in a different way depending on your race and culture or backgrounds.
I think the race that is victimized the most by sexism would be all the people in the Middle East, more specifically the women of the Middle East, because they aren't expected to do anything but stay inside, take care of the children, and cook. They have to wear things that cover their faces in public. They can't show any skin, and that is the way that they've been brought up, and they cannot do anything other than that.
I don't notice any race more than any other.
So you find it's all kind of equal?
Yeah.
I really don't know. It could be. I think different cultures, maybe, not just particularly races, can be more sexist than others. For instance, I don't know much about my own other culture, but I know in like the African American culture, there's a heavy misogynistic and misogyny and sexism there in play. So particularly how, and I think that's in a lot of cultures. In the Latin culture, you can look at that and how males are dominating. Like they wear the pants in the household. And so, yeah, I can definitely say that some of that still is in play where I think women sort of take a back seat because traditionally speaking, that's how they've been taught to just take a back seat and let their male counterpart take the lead in terms of just finances, in terms of just making the decisions for the family. And so I think in some cultures it's definitely heavier. It's particularly in like the Latin
very traditional cultures.
Very traditional cultures, and I think they don't want to look at the contemporary way of the modern family as much as other cultures do. So yeah, I say a little bit, but I mean on the whole, I think everyone in every culture has little hints of that.
People are always victimized, and I think that Middle Easterners are always victimized. And I guess you can say that any race is victimized, because even I feel it sometimes. And
as a redhead?
Yes,
Your
definitely
race?
as a redhead, but I mean even being white, like I can sometimes feel it even then. So I think everybody feels it a little bit, but some people feel it as a group more than other people.
I think all women are definitely victims of sexism. I think that, I don't know if I would say that minority women are more, they experience sexism more, or I think that they experience a general oppression more than typical, than like a white woman would. Because once again, like I was saying, we live in a patriarchal society where the people of privilege are you know, the people at the top of like the pyramid, I guess you would say, are like, you know, white heterosexual men. And so what is, I feel like part of like the institution of sexism is that women are like kind of forced, or not forced, we're expected to do things to please white heterosexual men, to fit into that world of those like people. And so white heterosexual men usually want, like they like kind of preference like white heterosexual women. And so what winds up happening is if you don't fit into those that system, then I feel like what winds up happening is you're considered less attractive, you're considered less capable of work, you're considered less capable of a lot of different things. And so I don't know if I would say that it's like more of a sexist thing. I think that the idea that like when you look at like women who are kind of like fetishized in our society as like being attractive, you very rarely see like minority women, like black women in the media. Like it rarely happens, and when it does, they're very like negatively portrayed, or we're very negatively portrayed. And so I think that's definitely sexism. Like I think it's not just because it's also just the fact that like I'm sorry, I'm being really inarticulate. It's also just like part of the catering. Like I don't think a lot of people realize it's more than just race. It's also sexism because it's part of the catering to the male patriarchy.
First thought you're gonna come to that women are victimized the most, because it's usually like usually people think of the sexist things are done towards women, but if you really like think about it, technically both genders get sexist actions that are like discriminatory actions that are seen toward them. Like women are supposed to be seen as weak and not able to do things for themselves, whereas men are supposed to be seen as tough and showing no kind of compassion. So if either kind of shows attributes of either side, they are looked down upon. So it doesn't, both kind of receive it, so you can't really say one is victimized more than the other.
Both genders are victimized by it, but in all honesty, the women are victimized the most, because even though if a guy is emotional, people will tease them about it, they won't be outright hostile. I'm not saying that it won't happen. It's less likely to happen than if a woman were to go out for the football team.
Stereotypes will change depending on the race. Like a black female will have a different stereotype than a white female, but it'll still be a sexist stereotype, but it'll be different. I think they're all equal in amount.
Definitely women. Unless the women gang up on the men, but that never happens because the men push down the women.
I just think that patriarchy is so, it's just so ingrained in us, and so I think that, like, in everything we do, there's always there's always this systematic, like, women being, like, victimized or, like, oppressed, and, you know, it's, like, when you look at, like, statistics and, like, sexual assault, which I consider a form of sexism, when you look at statistics for like jobs, like people being hired and like salaries that people get and stuff like that, like that's just clear indications of it. But also just interacting with people, you can see it on a day-to-day basis, the way that women tend to be.
Yeah, here's the thing though, and this is funny though. I think girls have accepted being, I guess, victimized and being, I don't know if they're sexist, I don't know, but just accepting their sexism, right? I think because I think girls like being taken care of. I think girls have been socialized and being okay with taken care of. With all these shows on TV, you see about being gold diggers and about just finding a guy who would take care of them and take care of their family and stuff like that. I think some girls have internalized their own oppression and accepted that. And so, yeah, definitely a guy, and they call him a gentleman, right? Open the door for you, you know, paying for dinner, or like just doing things that you ordinarily wouldn't do for your male counterpart.
Right.
Doing the extra stuff. And I mean, yes, it sounds nice, it's beautiful, it's a nice thing to do for someone, but it gives the implication that that person can't do it on their own, is that that person has to be taken care of, or that person is just inferior. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they must be looked after. So in a kind of sense, so we're putting women in the same box we put babies. Like we have to take care of them because they're women. You know, like when they go outside at night, they must be accompanied by a male. Like a lot of girls, teenage girls, I know a lot of my friends, they couldn't go outside the house past 9 because their father wouldn't allow it, but the brother could. You know,
right.
And there's a lot of understanding because girls, you know, it's dangerous for girls to understand because the men do rape girls. That's true. But at the same time, it's that girls have this constant acknowledgement that they must be taken care of by a male at all times, whether it's by their boyfriends, whether by their husbands or whoever. It's that at any moment that a girl cannot be independent of herself, and when she is, she's considered a bitch. or she has some implications or some type of derogatory term that's ascribed to that. And so, yeah.
Gentleman move and it's like a turn on because, like, of course I can open the door for myself and I wouldn't expect him to open the door, but if he goes out of his way to open the door, then that's a really caring move, and it's like, okay, so you really care about me.
Well, benevolent sexism is the thought that one gender cannot do something for themselves, but opening the door for a woman is more along the lines of, you shouldn't have to. I should want to do this for you. So no, I don't think it's benevolently sexist.
Intentions are really important, but I think that goes back to, like, kind of, like, dating is so, you know, there's, like, a format for dating, you know what I mean? Like, it's a system. I think that if someone's gonna ask me out, like, he better, like, you know, be prepared to, like, pay for things or whatever, which I don't necessarily expect it. Like, you know, I'll keep money with me or whatever, but, like, if you're gonna ask me out, like, I would kind of expect that you're gonna pick me up, you're gonna pay for me. In the same way that if I was asking someone out, which I do, like, I wouldn't have a problem asking someone out, I've done it before, I would offer to, like, pay and to, you know, pick the guy up and stuff like that. And I think that stuff like opening doors, and that's also, like, really, like, weird, because, like, we're in the South, and I just think that, like, in the South, it's so common for women to hold doors for women to hold doors for men, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of, like, I hold doors for people all the time. I think that if I'm on a date with someone, like, I would expect them to hold doors open for me just because I expect you to, like, want to impress me. In the same way that but, like, you know, it's weird because I don't even notice because I always just go and open doors, and I usually hold the door open for the person behind me. Like, it's something that I don't think about, which, I don't know, has to do with how, like, assertive and crazy I am. But, like, I think it is good when people hold doors for you. I think that when you look at intention, though, like, if I could tell that the guy was opening a door for me because he, like, was like, you can't do that yourself, you know what I mean, which I'm sure happens, then that's, like, a different situation. But on a date, like, I think that's all about, like, making good impressions, and I think that everything that I expect guys to do, I would do, too, on a date. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. If you ask me on a date, you should pay for the meal. If I ask you on a date, I should pay for the meal. I think that's the problem with the gender roles that men have been socialized to think that women should be taken care of, and women have been taught that they should be taken care of, because only they do, they take care of the house, the men take care of the rest. And what I find is that the men have the power in the sense that they have the money. And so if the man decides to leave the woman, she's left with nothing but a baby.
Right.
You know, and even now women can use the baby as a weapon, as a tool to get more money from a husband, especially after marriage. But yeah, I just find it saddening that today, you know, we still kind of have these gender roles, and there's nothing wrong with them until they just become restrictive, and only males can be masculine, only women can be feminine. It's that if a man becomes feminine, then that should be okay. If a woman wants to be masculine, that's okay, because we're all acting out these roles. We're all acting out the performances of a man and a woman. So it's not shocking to me when I see a man do something a woman traditionally would do, or a male would do something that, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm fine with that, but some people aren't because of how they've been socialized. But I think
that the way you are brought up is...
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, think about it. From the moment you're born, you're gendered. Depending on, they put you in the pink if you're a girl, they put you in the blue if you're a guy, and then from that moment on, your parents will have this outlook. Like, for instance, my daughter's gonna wear pink, her room is gonna be colored with all these beautiful colors, and then when the kid gets old, they say, well, I love pink. Well, you've been socialized to like pink because you've been surrounded by those colors and those themes of femininity. And men, well, we have their room blue, they have toys, they have action figures, they go outside, play football, and stuff like that. So already we've been socialized to like different things, to act certain ways, and so when we go across the aisle, I guess, it looks funny and fuzzy because people can't register that.